Coming up on this episode of the Mario Rosenstock podcast.
There were so many people that I admired who occupied that wellness space, who have stayed completely silent during this time. And I have gone from admiration to complete and utter nothingness. I have no regard for them at all. If you're saying that you are somebody who's all about minding others and I care. But I only care if you're a certain colour of skin or you're from a certain part of the world. That's not true wellness to me.
Sile Seoige has some very strong feelings about the atrocities that are happening in Gaza right now, and also about the failure of many of those in the wellness industry, people that she once admired, to speak out about it. It wasn't a subject that we had planned to talk about in our chat for this episode. I hadn't written it down in my notes. I didn't realise that Sile felt so strongly about this. But I'm very glad that we did chat about it, because Sile talks about the subject with such clarity and such fire, and I think you're going to be very moved by her words. But of course we talked about all sorts of other things in the hour we spent together as well, like Shila's hugely successful podcast, Ready to Be Real, some of the tough personal episodes she's been through in her life and what she's learned from them, and that recent controversy about the Irish language stirred up by Shila's former Newstalk colleague, Ivan Yates.
I definitely blamed myself at the time. I remember feeling straight away like, did I drink too much coffee? What did I do? Straight away I went to self-blame. And I remember when I went through my second miscarriage, I actually looked at myself in the mirror and I told myself over and over, it's not your fault, it's not your fault. I'm actually very fond of him, but I think he's an awful bollocks too. He is the epitome of a wind-up merchant. That's what he does.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
He loves to take out the pin in the grenade, throw it and leg it. That's what he does. So I found myself single, without a job, and coming out the other side of
You're really,
cancer
at
32,
that is nasty.
Yeah, it was full on.
Hang on, let's look before and after. Here's Sile. She's 32, beautiful brown eyes, she's got a job, a boyfriend, and is fully healthy. Here is Sile. Sile has cancer, no boyfriend and no job.
Exactly.
Find out how they're the same person after the break. So as you can hear, we had a lot of fun, as I knew I would with Sile. I've known her down through the years. But as well as going into some deep, serious topics too, we had fun as well. My full chat with Sile Seoige on the way in just a couple of minutes. But first, an announcement. Did you know it's been 25 years on the air? That's Gift Grub, the comedy sketches I do every day on the Ian Dempsey Breakfast Show. And to celebrate 25 years on the air, and it is 25 years this week, the first episode went out on May 3rd, 1999. It was. 1999. Imagine Bertie Ahern was 46 years of age. Can you even imagine him as 46? Leo Varadkar was 18. Simon Harris was 12. And he still is 12. That's a bit strange. And to celebrate, I'm putting on a fantastic, huge one-man show at the 3 Arena. Gift Grub Live 25, celebrating 25 years of Gift Grub. All the characters you're familiar with, brand new stuff as well to celebrate 25 years. It's in the 3 Arena. It's a Friday night. It's March 28th, 2025. A Friday. We'd love to see you. I would love to see you. And I know I'm talking to many people directly here who would be interested and fans of the comedy over the last 25 years, not just the podcast. So please get in touch. If you've got a ticket, get in touch if you're going. Get in touch if you want to see me doing anything special on stage, because I am going to take notes. Get in touch about favourite characters, favourite sketches that you might want included. Get in touch with me personally. I read them all. MarioRosenstock@gmail.com. I'd love to hear if you're going. I'd love to hear what you like, what you'd like to see. Okay, back to the main event. Sile Seoige. Shila's waiting in the green room as we speak. But as you can imagine, because it was Sile Seoige, she generated huge interest on the Mario Rosenstock voicemail hotline. Have a listen. Hi, you've reached the Mario Rosenstock podcast. Please leave a message.
Well, girl, dahi o she on sho, kechi will too. I love your work on the Irish language, Sheila. Looking forward to listening to Mario on the podcast, and I love how you defend it so passionately after that gobsheen Ivan Yates went off on one about it. I got so enraged, I'll tell you, that I drove straight out to Virgin Media Studios to have it out with him. I burst through the door. I broke windows. I'll tell you, screeching in Irish I was. They hadn't a clue what I was talking about, but Ivan was nowhere to be seen. A lucky escape, I'll tell you. Keep up the good work. See you down in Spiddle for a couple. Sheila, Ivan Yates here. This whole thing has been blown completely out of proportion. A little bit like
our sponsorship.
Stop it, Matt. A little bit like the sponsorship deal me and Matt were supposed to have done about our podcast. Well, nevertheless, I don't hate the Irish language. I wasn't very good at it in school, and I'm very insecure about it, and there was no need to set the dogs on me. What's Irish for dogs, Matt?
Na madri.
Oh, gibberish to me. That lunatic Haughey O'Shea came looking for me straight after the show. I had to hide out in the storeroom under a big pile of toilet paper for over an hour until he left. And listen, you're right. I am a thundering bollocks. Hopefully he's calmed down by now anyway. Bye. Hi, Sheila. This is Blind Boy Boat Club. I agree with you on the wellness industry. They are cowering on the sidelines, like hyenas, as they watch the lion catch their prey. They're hungry, thirsty, but they're afraid. Hyenas, Sheila. Good luck. By the way, I sent those vapes to you in the post. They're juicy.
Okay, it's time to meet this week's special guest. Podcaster, broadcaster, MC, all-round ambassador for the West of Ireland. And just a really, really, really sound person. And I loved chatting to Sile Seoige for over an hour. We had some great fun together. We were a few minutes late starting the chat, so when she arrived in studio, we got straight into it.
How are you, Sheila? Come here to me, loving.
You well?
Good. I'm very good. I'm mortified for being late, but look, thanks for being so nice.
That's all right, Sheila. So I was on your podcast.
You were.
A long time ago now. Thank you. And a long time ago.
Great.
And then you're on my podcast. And I suppose a good place to kick this off, Sheila, would be...
Are we in already?
No, I've already recorded your 4-letter word and everything. And your tribulations. But so...
Hashtag overshare.
Overshare, and that's that's part of the love of this podcast thing. So one of the things is that a lot of people do podcasts, right? Yeah. And a lot of people say they're going to start podcasts, and a lot of people do podcasts for different reasons, and then a lot of people give up the old podcasts. But you're one of the kind of what's the word? Pioneers, in the sense that not a pioneer, but a plantation maker. You set your stall out, and you said, "I'm going to keep doing this podcast, and I'm going to I'm going to really go for this podcast."
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
I mean, I love doing it, and it helps me. Personally, it helps me in my life, and I think it improves my inverted commas skill as an interviewer. So I think it's only a good thing that I keep it going. I genuinely love it. Like you, I like chatting to people. Yeah.
And why you do it as a little bit of a form of therapy and a little bit of a form of curiosity?
Yes, a combination of my own personal, let's work through this. I'm learning from the people I chat to. I think it improves, what I do for a living. And then it has the added benefit, I suppose, of being good for my profile by doing it. So there's a lot of different reasons why I love to do it. But I genuinely do. I really do. I'm thrilled that I finally went for it, because I'd been talking about doing a podcast for such a long time, and I was always kind of afraid to take the jump into it, thinking, oh, how can I do this? But I'm glad I did eventually. It took a long time. I didn't get there till the end of 2019. It was October 2019 I had my first episode.
Yeah, that's right. And now that's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much 5 years of continuous podcasting.
Yeah, I kind of take a break during the summer, with the kids being off and everything, and around Christmas. And then when life is overwhelming, like today, because I was doing 2 gigs yesterday, I just couldn't turn around a podcast. So sometimes I just say, look, you can do everything, but just not at the same time. So I sometimes just give myself a little bit of a break here and there. Because, as you know, with podcasting, there are no rules. I always laugh when I hear people talking about seasons and structures, because actually we're all making it up.
That's true.
We're all making it up. So I don't necessarily do that. I just decide to have a chunk of episodes and then take a break and come back. But like, if somebody asks me, what season are you on? Because I do get asked, what season is Ready to Be Real? I say, I don't have a notion.
Isn't it amazing how people respond to podcasts, people who listen to your podcast, people who are regular listens to your podcast? Isn't it amazing how people really listen to them? They listen to every word that you've said or that's been said on the podcast.
Yeah, they do. They connect to it, don't they? And no more than what you're doing. And when you were a guest on mine, you know, because I suppose what I feel sometimes, I suppose the nature of the name of the podcast, it's called Ready to Be Real. It's almost like there's an unwritten kind of agreement.
Contract,
that if you're gonna have a chat on this particular podcast, you're buying into the idea of just dropping any ideas of, Cuda Gael, trying to be someone that you're not. So I do think that you get people being very authentic, which you were.
Yeah, I've stopped. That's a function of age as well and experience.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's a function of age and experience and getting over yourself.
Yeah.
We all have so much hang-ups about ourselves. You know, we spend so much time in our early lives thinking about ourselves.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, just boring the arse off ourselves about ourselves.
Yes, I agree.
You know, this whole me, what would me think? And how does that affect me?
Yeah.
And I'm feeling this. And
I'm still guilty of that.
Yeah, but it happens.
But less so, definitely.
Oh, yeah, you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
But there comes a point in your life, some people reach it earlier, some people reach it later, some people reach it. It's a bit like menopause, I suppose, maybe. I don't know, but it could be like menopause. It's going to happen sometime. You just don't know when.
Yeah.
Where you just get over yourself.
Yeah.
I remember it happened to Ray Darcy. And you could nearly see it happening before my eyes when it was in Today FM. I remember he came in once and I just hadn't seen him in a couple of months, really, even though I'd been working here and I hadn't noticed him. And he was bald and he had a big, long beard. Yeah. And I went to talk to him and I just went, do you know what? I just don't give a shite anymore, Mario. Just don't give a bollocks.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, in his words, what he meant. He'd gotten over himself.
Yeah, it's liberating.
The angst.
When you just don't care.
The angst of caring, too much. Now, I do care, but I've gotten over myself a bit. And also, my way of getting over myself is that thing, the Ready to Be Real thing. So that is the ability to be able to talk about stuff that you're not afraid to talk about. And you're just not afraid because you know that loads of other people are going through that. So what's there to be afraid of?
Absolutely. When you were on the Tommy Tiernan show, that was just really powerful because I think you spoke about something for a lot of people, they're not comfortable to talk about. And you spoke about family dynamics and it not being like your family, like a lot of families, not being the Brady Bunch. And I think you gave, when somebody owns their own story, their own stuff, you give permission to others to be comfortable with their shit as well. So I think you're really cool, which is why I'm here. So I'm delighted you asked me on your pod. Thanks.
But you were sharing all this kind of stuff way before I was as well. I remember on my radio programme, The Sunday Roast, and I remember a couple of guests and one in particular sharing unexpectedly and out of the blue live on the radio her really, really sad stories about miscarriages.
Okay, yeah.
And that's something as well that you shared as well.
Yeah.
And that I remember thinking, because it happened to myself and Blonde about 4 times.
Okay,
in fact,
so
4
sorry.
times. Yeah. And I remember it being, I'd say, the saddest thing that had ever happened.
So sad.
Yeah, it's so sad. And an inexplicable, or not, it is inexplicable, but it's a weird sadness, isn't it?
It is so weird. And I think when you're going through it, you feel like you're the only one going through it. And then when you realise, and if you're comfortable to talk about it, and I totally understand that some people are and some people aren't, but I definitely feel that when you do open up to people, you realise, unfortunately, how common it is and how normal it is. It doesn't take away from the sadness, but I think when you share it and you realise there's others going through it or have gone through it, then you don't feel so alone in your pain. And the normalising of it is important. So, I mean, I suppose a number of years ago, I worked on a documentary that explored the whole idea of the stigma that we are still trying to move away from here in Ireland. We have come a long way, actually, and some amazing people well before me were talking very openly about their experiences, which really helped. And it's moving and it's changing. We still have a way to go, but I do think like the likes of making a documentary or people speaking who maybe have a profile of speaking publicly just help all of us realise that it's a fact of life, it's nature. It's very, very sad. Sometimes you'll know why it's happened, sometimes you won't. But we need to normalise that there's nothing wrong with us. We're not to blame. Nature sometimes in its wisdom, in its unexplained wisdom, perhaps.
Is that how you felt at the time?
At the time, I definitely blamed myself at the time. I remember feeling straight away like, did I drink too much coffee? You know, should I have gone for that? I don't know. I wasn't even running, actually. But I questioned everything I did. I was like, what did I do? Straight away I went to self-blame. It must have been something I did. And I remember when I went through my second miscarriage, I actually looked at myself in the mirror and I told myself over and over, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It was really, really hard. But I kept telling myself, this is not your fault. And it really helped me. It was very, very sad. And the second time it really floored me. Even thinking about it now, like, you know. But look, I'm very fortunate that I have 2 kids. So I have a 6.5-year-old boy and I have a girl that's 2.5. And a lot of people go through miscarriage and they don't get that, as they call it. Sometimes I struggle with the term, the rainbow baby.
What's that?
You know, the idea that you have a baby after the rain. I suppose the idea of the you know, the misery of miscarriage, and that you're gifted with this baby at the end.
And it doesn't happen for some people.
That doesn't happen for everyone. So I'm very conscious of the language around that, and I still don't know how I feel about the concept of a rainbow baby. But I'm also fully aware how lucky I am. I mean, I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
So lucky.
And humans are we're primeval characters in a way as well. That there's an awful lot about our instincts we don't understand.
Yeah.
And it's triggered through hormones and all this stuff, which are, you know, hundreds and thousands of years old. And there's lots we don't understand about our own evolution as beings. But something like what you said there, like you have your 6 and 2, and that's the thing, that the ability of us as humans to move on is extraordinary.
It is, yeah.
You know, you sort of think, how will I ever get over this? And then the human in you kicks in. And what is a human? A survivor. It's built to survive, adapt.
Yeah.
We're tough creatures.
Yeah.
And we're much tougher than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, the genetics kick in and we go, no, I've got my 6 and my 2 now and they're my whole world and I'm going to do everything I can to protect them. And what happened in the past is now gone. Now, it's not forgotten, but it's...
Yeah, it is. And you know, it's funny, like, it's not something I think about all the time because, as you said, life moves on and I do try and focus on what I have. But then in saying that, the second we're talking about it, I got very emotional there because straight away I'm back into those feelings. And even though you move on, I don't think you forget. You know, those 2 little beings that weren't meant to be, they'll always be a part of me. Yeah. That'll always be part of my story.
It's
you know,
Sheila, it's the other. Not only is it sad, it's wistful sadness as well, because you always wonder what it would have been, what the child would have been.
Yeah, and then you torture yourself with that idea, and I suppose then you think, like, here I am then with our daughter who came along, 2.5 years ago, and had the other 2 maybe perhaps come into the world, then we wouldn't have her. So you know what, you could drive yourself crazy thinking about it and mulling it over.
Life is chaos.
It is, yeah.
Life is chaos, and we try to order it, but actually it's chaotic. And the successful people in life
let go.
You let go and manage to just surf the chaos in. Not complete. We can't all surf like we're superstars. But if you let it go a little bit. And that's what happens when Ray Darcy said, I couldn't give a bollocks anymore. He then begins to get on the surfboard.
Yeah, that's right.
Because otherwise you're just fighting the current.
Yeah.
And the current's always going to win.
Yeah.
So you just got to go with it a bit. That's what I've learned anyway.
Yeah.
But here's another thing, right? So I had a friend, and she got cancer when she was 33.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And she was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And she was beautiful, dynamic, fashion designer, sort of mysterious, sexy, sociable. Everybody loved her. She was dead within 4 months.
God,
just
Mario,
taken. Yeah,
so sorry.
Well, yeah. Well, she wasn't a close personal friend of mine.
That's full on.
My point is that this woman.
She got diagnosed. 4 months later.
Dead.
Jesus.
Absolutely, completely dead, ravaged. And you got cancer when you were really, really young.
Yeah, 32.
Exactly.
I was diagnosed. But then you go. Look how lucky I am. I'm here and I'm well and I'm 45 now.
Unbelievable. How wonderful is that?
I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky. And the timing really, it's all about timing. They got it early enough.
Yeah. But still very young.
It was young,
that's warning signs.
Yeah, it was just shock because I suppose I'm the baby in my family. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and there was no cancer in the house. So, and before I got diagnosed, I was doing the most vile green concoction every morning with like apple cider vinegar, spirulina. It was absolutely gross. All the greens that have ever been, grown in the ground were in this thing, and I used to lurry it into me. I was really fit physically. I thought I was like, probably like a lot fitter than I am now. But here we go. I still got landed with this cancer diagnosis. I will say, and I think anytime you talk about cancer, it is very emotive because we've all lost people that we know to cancer, whether they're close to us or not. Sometimes people will be listening and they're going through cancer treatment, or like me, they've come out the other side of it. It's very hard to talk to somebody now who hasn't been touched by cancer one way or another, because unfortunately it's a fact of life. It's not the 1 in 3 anymore. It's the 1 in become, or is it the 1 in 3 still, and it's becoming the 1 in 2? Anyway, the statistics are they're concerning. They're very concerning.
It's probably 1 and 2 because the longer people live, the more likelihood they'll eventually get some form of cancer. So that'll bring up the numbers.
Absolutely.
But in a sense, as somebody who's 90 who has a little bit of cancer, in a way you don't even count that.
Yeah.
Because it's not a 32-year-old getting, or a 52-year-old getting cancer.
I will say though, despite the physically, if you were to look at me, you would think, no, she doesn't look like a candidate for cancer at all. I had a lot of stress in my life. There was a lot of other stuff going on that I definitely don't think helped, or certainly maybe helped the cancer to thrive.
Exactly.
So these are conversations that can sometimes ruffle a few feathers. So I'm quite mindful of how I approach it. But I definitely don't think the stress in my life helped that situation. But being diagnosed was a bombshell, yeah. And I mean, I was on my own when I was told, because I'd had a biopsy on it previously and it came back clear. So when I had that first operation, so basically your thyroid gland is like a butterfly shaped gland in your neck, and the left side of it was really swollen. It had to come out. So they took that out. We thought it was nothing to worry about. And I was actually working in Newstalk at the time, and I was going in on, I think it was a Monday morning in October. But I was on my own, and it was the first appointment because I was eager to get in for my surgeon to have a look at the scar and say, get back to work, you're grand. Because I was itching to get back to work. And he was completely different. His tone, I was like, what's going on here? And he said, normally we don't deliver this news to people on their own, but there was no way of contacting you because you're the first appointment, and I'm gonna tell you now. And it was shocking. I just remember it was like I had a form of Tourette's. I just couldn't take it in. I was just like, fuck, bollocks, what? Shit, no, fuck, what? Fucking hell, really?
That's like when you came in the door here.
Yeah.
Really potty mouthed like.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so, Mario. So, and maybe that's just, that's the real me.
Filthy.
Like, when you're told something that you're not expecting, it wasn't, the tears didn't come. I wasn't like, oh no. I was like, fuck.
Oh
no,
yeah. When I'm told something,
what?
when I'm told something I'm not expecting, I just immediately go piss flaps.
Yeah.
And I never say piss flaps other than that.
Piss flaps.
Yeah. So then if somebody just goes, did you not hear about now? Piss flaps. So it's kind of Tourette's thing.
Yeah.
Same as you.
Yeah.
You just went fuck balls, shit.
Fuck balls, bollocks, shit, shit, dick, what, fuck, ma. So I suppose that was just my initial thing was, it was the disbelief. It was the disbelief of what? So then I was back in pretty quickly after that for the other operation, and then my treatment started, But yeah, it was a mad time. And in that year I went through a lot. So I was working in Newstalk. Within a year, I wasn't. They let me go. I was also in a relationship with somebody, and that ended. So I found myself single, without a job, and coming out the other side of
You're really
cancer at 32.
That is nasty.
Yeah, it was full on.
Hang on. Page 1. So let's look before and after. Hi, welcome to Before and After. Here's Sheila. She's 32, beautiful, brown eyes. She's got a job, a boyfriend, and is fully healthy. Here is Sheila. Sheila has cancer, no boyfriend, and no job.
Exactly.
Find out how they're the same person after the break.
Yeah.
And
mad
Jesus,
stuff,
Sheila.
mad stuff, yeah. At the
Isn't
time,
that
it was absolutely awful.
Did you ever...
Now I'm
No, did you
thrilled.
ever-
Weirdly, you know what the mad thing is?
Yeah.
At the time, like if somebody was to say this to me, I would probably get physical with them. You know what I mean? I'm not a physical person. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But I'd probably be a fighter if they had said this to me. In time, all of this awful shit that's going on for you would be the best thing that ever happened. And I'd be like, what? What in God's name are you telling me? This is absolutely bonkers. But like, look at my life now. I'm with like really a brilliant person that I'm mad about. We have 2 kids. We're living in the west of Ireland. We're building our home by the sea. I am so happy. I'm so content. It's not perfect. It's far from it. But I know what I have is really good. So if I'd stayed in that relationship, you know, things would be very different. If the cancer hadn't been caught, I probably wouldn't be here having this conversation. And, you know, as much as I was very sad to leave Newstalk because I loved it and I loved working there, it opened up other opportunities for me. And I'm really, really happy where I am.
Isn't life funny like that?
Yeah,
isn't
it is, yeah.
It's peculiar that you think, and in fact, a lot of really, really great things, the best things in your life, somehow seem to happen hard upon the worst things.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny the way it works with people?
I think we just learn. I suppose when you're faced with stuff that there's no. Well, I mean, really, it's either face it or run away. But run away. Look, what are you going to achieve with that? Or there's another road that's even a darker road, which is a scary thought.
That's right. Are you saying that faced with some of the most difficult things in our life, a lot of us humans become our best selves to deal with them?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that what you're saying?
It's just it's a huge learning when you're faced with things that, you know, I mean, I had my dark days. I had days where I just didn't want to get out of bed, and my thoughts went
I'm not
a bit
being
dark.
prurient now, right? Because I was just when I said that thing about comparing the 2 Sheilas.
Yeah, no, you're dead
like
right.
you did. That's what you said to me.
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever sort of, I don't know, either sit in a cafe or sit at home at your breakfast table or at a table with a cup of tea or whatever, and just start bawling and just going, why me? Did you ever? Of course,
I had that.
Did you just go, fuck, why me? I'm so sorry.
And I think, you know what? I think, you know, there's a lot of talk about, you know,
because I would have.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that talk about, you know, moving away from victimhood and owning and taking ownership over your life and taking responsibility. I do think there's a time and place for that. I think sometimes it's okay to give yourself a bit of a break and say,
Agreed.
This is just shit.
Yes, and to have a good wallow.
Have a good wallow and do what you need to do. But I suppose there comes a time when you realise, okay, if I keep doing that, that's actually going to damage me. That's going to affect my mental health in a bad way. So now that shift wasn't an easy one for me, but I had you know, good friends around me, and sometimes you need that friend that says, you know, I had a friend who basically says, what are you going to do about this?
I know.
You can't keep just feeling sorry for yourself. And, you know, it is shit, because I did have that. Why? You know, how did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? And you do. It's a normal response. But I think
Sheila,
my life
it's way
starts to
more than
improve.
normal response. I mean, what proportion of your friends aged 32 would have had a cancer diagnosis? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Come on.
Yeah, I know what
you
you mean.
were in the tiny 2 percentile. So that's shit.
Yeah.
And you went through a year. Was it hard?
Like, it was grand.
Yeah.
In the sense that, you know, operation, another operation, the recovery from that, and then
Did you have any side effects which were?
It was more just balancing. So I suppose I don't have a thyroid gland, so I have to be on thyroid medication for the rest of my life. So it was about getting that level right, because you know, it was kind of all over the shop.
I read in the notes that that you worried about a danger that you might have lost your voice.
Yeah. So basically, the tumour was really big. It was like the size of a tennis ball in my neck.
No way.
Yeah, mad. And I was presenting the TV show with my sister on RTE at the time. So we had a TV show during the day.
That's right.
Show again.
I did it.
Yeah, you did.
I remember actually once I think I appeared on the show with Camille O'Sullivan.
Yes, it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And your connection and the fact that you dated when you were...
That's right, we went out together.
It was so lovely.
Yeah, I remember that years ago.
You were brilliant, yeah.
Yeah.
So... and every time I'd see a clip back, all I could see was this bloody lump in my neck, and it looked awful. And everybody's really nice, going, we don't really notice it. You did. So it was during that kind of period that I went for the surgery. What actually happened, if I'm perfectly honest, what actually happened was this. We were filming the show, it was December, and I was sitting down getting my makeup done, and I was feeling crap. I had these cramps in my stomach, and I was like, what is this about? And the show happened. We were live on TV, and I was caked in makeup, but underneath I was green. I was feeling really bad. And my sister, being my sister and having a sixth sense for me, kind of said, you're not here at all. So I think I did the first part of the show, and I sat out the rest of it. I just couldn't function. I was then getting sick in the loo. It was really bad. It was also the night of the wrap party and or the Christmas party, not the wrap party. And I couldn't make it, so I just thought I had a bug and I just went home. And I'm kind of a person, I don't like fuss. When I'm sick, I just leave me alone, I'll deal with it myself. But Gra left the party early because she was like, Sheila's not right. So came in to me and I was doubled over in the bed and she said, get up. And she brought me to VHI in Dundrum. And all I remember is the nurse asking me what day it was. And I was like, what the fuck is this about? And I think it was a Thursday. I said, it's Thursday. And then she asked another question and she left the room, and then I turned to Gra and I said, why would she ask me that? I said, because she's asked you questions and you've spoken complete nonsense. I was completely unaware.
Okay.
Anyway, fast forward that night, I was getting my appendix out.
Okay.
So I was in rag order.
Yeah.
The guy that was on wasn't due to be working, but the guy who performed the emergency surgery came around to me the next morning and said, how are you feeling? I said, I'm grand. He said, how long have you had that? And he pointed to my neck.
Okay.
And I said, geez, I've had that a while now. I've been trying all kind of tinctures and stuff to get rid of it. And he said, okay, we'll do a biopsy on that, because actually I'm an endocrinologist. I wasn't really meant to be working last night, but here we go. He's the guy actually who's my surgeon who performed the 2 operations. So from that time, 2 years later was when I actually had it removed.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know, you kind of think, do things happen for a reason?
Yeah.
Perhaps they do.
Yeah.
So, well, look, we got it at an early enough point, which was great. So it was very treatable. I had my treatment. It was successful. I saw my oncologist for 10 years. I'm now 12 and a half years since that point. So I don't need to see him anymore.
Yeah.
And it doesn't occupy my thoughts. The funny thing is, it's not that I'm uncomfortable with the term of cancer survivor, but I'd never identify as a cancer survivor. I would never call myself that. I completely respect anybody's desire to do that for themselves. But it's not an identity label that I use.
Yeah.
Cancer was something that visited me. It's no longer my life. And to be honest, I don't worry about it coming back.
Yeah.
If it comes back, I'll deal with it then. I'm quite pragmatic. I don't want to just worry.
Yeah.
I'm not a worrier per se.
Yeah.
Not about myself. I just think, you know what, there's too much more stuff. There's more stuff happening in life to be worrying about than something that may or may not happen.
Yeah.
So I've no control over whether it'll happen again.
Yeah.
Will it happen again? I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Brian Kennedy's really interesting talking about his cancer experience. Because
he had a really hard time of it. Yeah, he's a great guy.
He is, and he is ready to be real.
Big time.
He's ridiculously honest.
So honest.
He's actually a little startling at times, unless you're used to him.
Yeah, I know.
Because he'll go there.
Yeah, he just.
I have no fucking problem saying it, Mario.
Yeah,
no problem at all. I cancer the whole.
Yeah, I know. TMI.
Yeah. Well, that's what he says.
I know.
Anyway. You said something there that was interesting, and I suppose I'd be interested in asking this to anybody. And that is, you said, was this meant to be? And I suppose that's an interesting question to ask you. What do you think of the idea of what will be, que sera, sera, the idea that we are just, what will be destined is destined, and there's not much I can do about it? Or do you believe, no, I have a huge influence on what's going to happen?
So if you asked me this question in September 23, I'd probably give you a completely different answer, but I have changed so much over the past number of months.
Have you?
Yeah. I feel that what is happening currently in Palestine has been a major wake up for me. Not that I wasn't aware, but I feel like it's been kind of like pulling back the curtains and seeing people and systems for what they are. I'm also really disillusioned and uncomfortable, and I'm trying to manage my feelings around the wellness space that I occupy often, because I'm a trained yoga teacher, so I often deliver well-being talks. But there's so much bullshit in the wellness industry, and these privileged Western phrases that we bang out about, and I used to say them myself, I'd say them myself about, we're the masters of our own destiny. We are the architects of our life. We must own. But that's okay to say when you are living in a safe country and you have access to all the privileges that we have living in the West. That is not the same for somebody who's living without their basic human rights and they're struggling. So I think we just have to be very careful about the language we use, because for me, and I know I'm not really answering you, but I suppose you're just tapping into something that for me, I've just felt this. It's funny. I think it's, and actually Haughey said it brilliantly, if any good thing can come from this time, it's at least we know who the cunts are. And that's true. And I know that's a word that people struggle to hear, but it's true. There were so many people that I admired who occupied that wellness space, who have stayed completely silent during this time. And I have gone from admiration to complete and utter nothingness. I have no regard for them at all. The closer you get to money and power and all of that, the less likely you are to speak up for basic human rights for humans. And I just think it's been unbelievably revealing. I'm a big believer in paying for services and an exchange of energy. And if somebody is providing a service that I can benefit from, I've no problem paying for that. But I have seen the exploitation and the manipulation in the wellness industry. Like, here I am with my 17th version of a water bottle that has my logo on it. That's going to make your life's going to change when you drink this water from this bottle. Shit that I see all the time being peddled by the same people who are saying absolutely nothing during this time. I have nothing against merch. I have nothing against journals and things that help. I buy them myself. I like them. But if you're saying that you are somebody who's all about minding others and I care. But I only care if you're a certain colour of skin or you're from a certain part of the world. That's not true wellness to me. So I'm really struggling with all of that at the moment.
Okay, can I just tap into that a bit more?
Yeah.
You're struggling, first of all.
I'm struggling because I'm somebody who, I suppose, if you were to look at my podcast, people might say it's personal development, or it's a well-being podcast. It's about being real, having authentic conversations with people who are maybe known, like yourself, people who aren't, who have extraordinary stories to tell, or maybe experts in a particular field. But at the end of the day, it needs to be inclusive. It needs to talk about stuff that's happening. It's not just about us here in our cushy little lives in the West. So I am reflecting. I suppose I'm trying to have open conversations with people about what's happening.
Let me get you right though, so I can follow up. Yeah. And that is,
I suppose I completely went off the point of what you were saying. But I do believe that things, to a degree, happen for a reason. But I don't necessarily buy into that when you say, because at the end of the day, if it's all geography. Like, I'm from the west of Ireland, but what if I was born in Gaza? My life would be very fucking different. So, things happen for a reason, but then there's inequalities everywhere. No,
that answers my question. But the second part of the question is then following on from what you said. And just let me listen. I always want to be clear about that. So, are you disillusioned with the fact that you feel that people who are occupying that space, the wellness space, the care space, the mindful space, should be addressing
absolutely
this area?
I mean, it's basically spiritual bypassing. It's the high vibes only crowd. It's the love and light brigade.
Yeah.
And that's not real. And that's not actually what true wellness is about. True wellness is about incorporating all the bits of us that we like. All the stuff that we like is easy to absorb. But we need to get friendly with our shadow. We need to look at ourselves as a whole being in all our glory. That's actually what true wellness is. But a lot of people are just love to be talking about all the nice stuff and the positive stuff and keep your vibes high. And, that's actually really destructive.
Yeah, well, this is one thing you've raised, which is hugely interesting and developing day by day. And we keep our eye on this space, is the idea that at the upper echelons, in fact, from the middle echelons, if you like, of the wellness space, you begin to become very commercial. Yeah. And the more commercial it becomes, the more it's susceptible to lobby interests. Yeah. And the more it's susceptible to lobby interests, the more, well, let's just keep our mouth shut about the elephant in the room. And that's what you're saying the problem is.
Yeah, I mean, it's been hard.
And I mean, you quoted Haughey there, who I think is
amazing.
He's been pretty much the most outspoken person on the social media space about this whole thing. And
he's using comedy in such a fantastic way.
He is, and it's such a simple, effective way. But he's also, just to get away from wellness for a second, he's also highlighted something that's, we're all now have to face this question. And that is, we're not necessarily the good guys anymore.
No.
And you and I grew up in a society where it was taken for granted that you and I and us were the good guys.
Yeah.
We have our flaws. We're capitalistic. We're greedy. We're fat. We're selfish. But at the end of the day, we do the right thing. And now this fundamental question has to be asked, are we doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, the West, if you like it, not the West, the West, the West is not doing the right thing by anybody's standards.
No.
So this is a, and it's been developing ever since we invaded Iraq. So that's 30 years.
Yeah.
We've been basically, a big question mark now hangs over us. This post-World War II thing where we were the good guys, that's fine. But ever since this Iraq thing, it's now, are you sure now we're the good guys anymore?
Yeah.
And of course, when there's question marks over us being the good guys, that's worse now, because it means then that there's question marks over the bad guys who are bad guys about being the bad guys. So basically you get the whole Putin going, well, maybe Putin's the good guy. Now, he isn't a good guy. But if you're saying we're not the good guys, you get the binary, well, maybe Putin isn't so bad. And that's the worst danger. So, yeah. So, no, Taiga's been absolutely fantastic, and his comedy has been fantastic. If you don't know who he is, listeners, it's Taig Hickey. He's a comedian. You'll find him especially on Instagram and X. And he does these fantastic little vignettes, these sketches about world politics. And presently, in the last year, he's been spending 8 months, he's been spending a lot of time doing little Palestine-Israeli sketches, which are so simple and effective. But when you see them, it's just Sesame Street, basically. Like you go, right, this is just so... and you can go, yeah, he doesn't understand, it's more complicated than that. He is well-versed on the subject, and he is well-rounded and well-read, and worth looking at. But he's one of the few people that's just kind of... He's literally, if you want to say it, putting it, he's all in.
Yeah, he's all in. I think this is a huge wake up, a huge period of learning, and actually what it is really is the unlearning. It's the shedding of what I thought things were, and really seeing
this has really
situations. It's huge impact on me.
I saw it immediately in your face.
Yeah.
I asked a question which was not directly related, but
I don't know why.
No, but your mind went there, and I saw your face change, and you really, really feel big about this, and that's good to see that you care about. Well,
I think
people.
The more we can have these open conversations as well, and we're seeing it at the moment, obviously, with the the protesting at the universities in the States. I mean, it is gaining momentum now, which is really brilliant. So we need to keep going. And a lot of people have stayed quiet, and I know for a lot of people, it's that freeze response. It's the not knowing what to do. I would just say that from somebody who has decided to step out and maybe try and do the small tiny bit that I can, and I never feel like it's enough. It's actually a beautiful space. You will connect with some of the most gorgeous people. I have made connections in this time with people that it's amazing how when you connect over something so important, you cut through the layers of bullshit. I feel like I've known these people all my life. I'm developing really sincere friendships. We laugh, we cry, we slag together. And we grieve and we move and we try and use that in a good way. And at the end of the day, there is power in people coming together and saying this isn't good enough.
Yeah. Ireland has taken a kind of a slightly outlier response to this with regards to our European allies. That's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I suppose bearing in mind our history.
That's why we feel it so deeply. That's why I feel we have that sense of...
the government, in fairness to them, whatever you might say to them, have at least stood up to some degree on their principle.
Obviously, I would say I would like them to be doing more and have done more a lot sooner.
They've done more than others, though.
I know they've done more than others.
I mean, they were reaching out with Spanish to try and establish Palestine, make sure that Palestine was recognised as an individual state.
Yeah.
Imagine.
And fair play to Simon Harris, he's saying the right things. We just need to see action. The words are being said, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it's we need to action now. We need to follow it up.
Have you spoken a little bit about this on your own podcast?
Yes, I have spoken about my feelings about the now. That's
good. From a person who makes a podcast point of view, I mean, I think it's really powerful stuff you're talking.
So I've spoken to Irish Palestinian Roisin El Sharif. I've spoken to humanitarian activist Caoimhe Butterly. I spoke to Daniel Mattei, who's been an unbelievable voice. He is Jewish. He is happens to be the son of Gabor Mattei, and he's been using his voice really powerfully during this time. He's very much anti-Zionist. So I've had a number of conversations to explore.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you something about my experience? Because it's probably emblematic of a lot of experience. This is a lot of experiences. And that is this. So I would be obviously keeping my eye on public events for the last 30 years. Okay?
Of course.
right? And naturally, it's what I do.
Yes.
So I watch football, rugby, economics, politics, American politics, English politics, all sorts of subjects, mad stuff, Russia, all that. But I would be ignorant about the Middle East. So why? Because for me, the Middle East, since I was 20, would have been this melange of complex, gnarled, rooty. Where does it start? Where do you go? Where do you start? And so I would have parked it all my life. And then when this comes to a head, and you have so many faces and noises and voices blaring at you going, the Palestinians are terrorists, they're godless, they did this, they did that. And then you have the Palestinian side going, well, they've occupied us for reason. And you're just left in that kind of, you said it, frozen. I felt a bit frozen, you know?
Yeah.
So thankfully in this world of podcasts and informative social media, and the fact that this bloody thing has gone on so long, I've had more education in this thing than I have ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And and that has that has opened my eyes in a way that you get to a few. It's like chess. You get to a few moves. After a few moves, and having read the history a bit, and you go, "Do you really know your history?" Well, yeah, a little bit, enough. I know enough at this stage. I know 50 times more than I did. Yeah. So I don't know everything. Nobody knows everything, but I know enough so that in a few moves you can go, that's wrong.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's pretty much all you are as a human, you know?
Yeah.
And so what's wrong? So I might as well say it, just so that you don't know. You know, to be relentlessly occupied, to be relentlessly settled upon, to be relentlessly living in a country which is an apartheid movement, to be bombed and this before October 7th.
Yeah, of course.
You know, is wrong. So this thing didn't happen in isolation. Of course, I'm not excusing any. I always have to paraphrase this, but and use an addendum. You would not excuse any atrocity, and of course, nobody human. What human does support atrocity?
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
Shouldn't that go without saying, or do we always have to say, "Oh, sorry, I don't support the
reason we have
atrocity"?
To say it is because so many people will come at us with
they're thinking you're one-siding it.
Yeah, and I've had it. I mean, I've lost a 17-year friendship during this time.
Have you?
Yeah, because we are completely these. And
don't
this is
tell
why,
me the person. Can you explain?
I won't.
Can you explain the complexity of that?
She's English and Jewish, and we are on completely we're seeing the one situation completely differently, and there's no talking to that mindset.
What about?
So this is a non-negotiable for me. I can't just talk about kids and light stuff and ignore this awful thing that's happening. It has an impact on her because she feels a kinship, as she calls it, to Israel. But again, anytime anything is said, it's what about the 7th of October? So again, you have to put it into context. Every time we're talking about it, because so many people come at us with the what about, when we're saying it's awful what's happening to the multiples of thousands of Palestinians that are being murdered and starved to death, we're not saying that we don't have compassion and we don't feel for all the people that died on the 7th of October. But it's unfortunate, sometimes you have to actually say that because it comes at you, what about the hostages? What about the 7th of October? But again, as you said, we also can't look at that day without looking at the context of the 75 years previous. We're now into 76 years and that's what, it is so complex, but we are learning. And I think anyone that doesn't know now is actively stepping away and closing down any accounts because it's all around. There's no way of not knowing at this stage. So that's why I'm struggling with the silence. I had compassion for people in the beginning. I understand that it's a trauma, like it's a response. It's the fight or flight and freeze or whatever. But at this stage, it's also a question of simple humanity. Do you care about innocent people dying? Like, I see videos and they deeply affect me. I just don't understand how people don't feel that. I know so many people do, but if you're not feeling it, I think there's a bigger question to be asked there.
Yeah, well, there's a slight we're being inured to graphic horror.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but the viewers are reminded that the pictures they're about to see are disturbing. The levels on those pictures are being brought up week by week. So it used to start with, we'll only show this and we won't show this. Then they went on to, we'll show this and we'll pixelate out the faces. Now they're showing the faces.
Because I suppose they have to, and this is what's awful. You're seeing Palestinians having to record these horrific. Like
that has two sides to it.
Yeah.
One is that has two arguments to it, and one is that yes, it's important that we get the horror of this out there.
Yeah.
The second thing is that the more you show of it, the more inured you become to the horror.
I know. There is that.
All right.
Anyway, back to your point.
I'm going to go hilarious in a minute. But I'm asking, one thing that always occurs to me is the amount of the thousands of Jewish people who object to this.
And that's what's amazing when you're seeing it now. A lot of the universities and obviously the Jewish Voice for Peace, isn't that what they're called? They're an amazing organisation. Like, it's fantastic. And we, again, I suppose
it's not in their name. They don't want this in their name.
And again, back to that ridiculous question. This is about an attack on Jews. We know it's not. It's nothing to do with that. No. This is about people having a problem with another people occupying them. That's what this is about. And when Jewish people stand up for Palestinians, it's really, really powerful.
Why do they call it a war? It's a first world superpower invading a third world primitive medieval country at this stage. Medieval in terms of their technology. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not a fair fight.
No,
this is a nuclear power.
Yeah.
It's the sixth nuclear power in the world.
Yeah.
Invading guys with stones.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you're just kind of going, is there really an argument about this? It's like Trump in the Supreme Court at the moment. If this podcast isn't out of date, I don't know what they're going to do. But I mean, they're literally saying they're in Supreme Court going, so is it cool for Trump then as president to order a Navy SEAL 6 team to kill his political opponent? Well, it could be, Your Honour. Could be. Yeah. If he's the president. You go, well, okay, that's just laughing then, Anyway, we talked about the West.
Bonkers.
Let's talk about the West.
The West.
So you lived in Dublin and now you moved.
Yeah, years in Dublin and moved back. So we are at the point of moving into our home. So we're building a house across on the beach in my home village of Spittle. And
you're building a house on the beach?
Just across the road, yeah. Lovely.
Wow.
I mean...
So when you're finished building it,
yeah,
will you be able to look out on the sea?
Yeah. Yeah.
From your bedroom?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel very lucky.
Wow.
I mean, we basically bought the site when our little lad, who's 6.5, when he was 4 months old. So between getting planning permission and then obviously COVID happened, it's been a long and very expensive and stressful process.
When you say planning permission, I always think of you're living in, sitting there and it goes around and it's like, I heard Sile Seoige is looking for planning permission there for the imagine the amount of times that was said in Spittle.
I think so.
Oh God, this is Ireland. I went up and I read it there. They had to post it outside their shack. Sile Seoige is looking for planning. Oh, what's she looking for? I think it's 4 bedrooms. Her bedroom would look out onto the sea. I heard her saying that in the Mario Rosenstock podcast as well. Do you listen to Mario Rosenstock? No. I just have Sile Seoige put into Google as an alert. What? Really? You have an alert for Sile Seoige? Wherever she appears, I listen because I want to find out what's happening with that fucking house. It's a mile down the road from me. Out into the sea, she'll look my arse. I put the objection in last week. Oh yeah, me and Tommy. She'll never build that fucking cottage.
We're very lucky, actually. People are very sound in Spittle.
Yeah.
So no one objected.
Are you
to
royalty in Spittle?
I'm just from a lovely place, and
well, you are then, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm certainly not royalty.
Come on, but the Seoiges are royalty.
No, it's nothing to do with that. I'm the daughter of Phil and Martin. Do you know?
Oh, is that the way it works?
Oh yeah. No notions, Spittle.
Yeah.
And if you were to see me when I drop my kids off in the morning, you would certainly know that. Like, not a screed of makeup,
stop
hair all over the
humble
shop.
bragging.
No, I look absolutely horrific every morning, and I am that mother, like, just dishevelled, throwing the kid out of the car. Well, actually, no, we're very good at the moment. We're walking.
Yeah.
We're walking.
When will the house be built?
So we're nearly there. We're probably moving in May.
Well, not if Nolene.
So days away.
Not if Nolene will stop you. But anyway, you're moving in May, and what a dream that would be.
And it's a work in progress, because anyone who's been through this, and look, let's be honest, it's really tough at the moment for everyone. And I know we're very fortunate to be in this position.
You're imposing your Spittle privilege on me.
But I'm also 45. It's taken a long time for me to get to this point.
No, I feel oppressed by your Spittle privilege. I feel oppressed by your cancer survivor Spittle privilege that you're imposing on me. Thank you. Sorry, apologise for yourself. So listen, I've spent all this time talking to you, and I didn't get around to this mountain out of a molehill that was made of, well, let me say, if this is your life, it would sort of go, Agus inish, tá mé on sofa, Agus Neil may give a shit about Irish.
Oh, yeah, that was mad, wasn't it?
Yeah, Ivan Yates.
Yates,
yeah. You were on the sofa. You were kind of looking morto on the sofa, weren't you?
I wasn't morto.
No.
I was just like, here we go again. When it happened, I was just like, are we here again? I was just like, come on, move on, because I'm just so bored of it. I'm so bored of it. And I know
You're bored
Ivan.
of what? Tell us.
So I know Ivan. I obviously worked with Ivan when I was in Newstalk, and he is the epitome of a wind-up merchant. That's what he does.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
He loves to take out the pin in the grenade, throw it and leg it. That's what he does. And I'm actually very fond of him, but I think he's an awful bollocks too. And I think that's
the podcast. That's okay. What 30, 59, exactly on the 1 hour mark. We got her. I knew it would only take an hour to wear her down, but that's our goal there now. That and the Palestinian bit, we have her.
But look. Again, I've been actually having conversation. There perhaps will be. I might be working on something that'll explore this topic in its fullness, which it needs. So we can't even in a 5, 10, 15-minute chat, you can't really distill it down because this is a bigger issue. So that opinion that the language is nonsense, get rid of it, we don't need it. It's not that I don't think that those people, and some people listening to your podcast might be of that opinion. There are people that agree with Ivan. I do think we need to have space to listen to everyone, but we also need to understand where that voice comes from. Who is that voice? Why do you think that way? Where does that come from? Because that's not, that when you go far enough back, that is not the voice of the Irish. That is the voice of the colonizer. Your language was taken from us for so long. We've had such a difficult relationship with the language because of that very reason. So the work that's being done at the moment, people speak about Irish having a moment right now, and it's great. Like, we have amazing, young, vibrant people, like you have Shiva and Louise and Dudden with the How to Gael podcast.
I love the way you say that name.
They're brilliant.
Dudden.
Dudden.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, right, okay.
That's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they're playing a blinder. There's so many people doing, like, we have, Kneecap, we have the Colleen Kuhn movie that was up at the Oscars. It's amazing stuff being done. For me, it's my normal because I grew up with it and I know how lucky I am. I'm not more Irish than anyone else. I'm not more Irish than somebody who doesn't speak a word of it. It's just the reality of life. It's just geography. But I do feel passionately that I'm very lucky to speak it. I love it. And I think it's very disrespectful to basically say that it's pointless.
Do you think it's going through a good moment then?
I do.
As you say.
I do.
And that's good. And
really good.
And it's not just... Do you feel it's a passing thing, or do you think it's just
No, I don't. I hope so. I hope not. I think actually what people are really connecting with, and again, it's back to why do we connect so much with Palestinians? Our language is intertwined in all... In everything that is to do with us being Irish. It's a fundamental part of our Irishness. It flavours our music, our ability to, in everything we do. And I think to lose our language is to lose a huge part of ourselves and to lose our identity. So whether we speak it or whether we have a very uncomfortable relationship with it, we need to learn why. And I think how it's taught obviously needs huge change. And I understand and appreciate that a lot of people have a difficult relationship with it.
Learning any language by rote is a pain in the hole.
Yeah.
Let's face it. I remember on the programme that I did before the Sunday Roast, I had my uncle on, Gabriel Rosenstock. And Gabriel is... You know who Gabriel is, and I know this, but Gabriel is fundamentally, when it comes down to it, a really interesting person to listen to talking about Irish.
Yeah.
He's not even talking Irish, he's telling you about Irish.
Yes.
So he'll just come in, and I didn't know where he was going to go, and he knew his listeners, and he'll just go, he has this kind of professorial tick that all really, really intelligent people or professorial type of people have sometimes. It's a bit affected sometimes. So sometimes they talk and then they go, Well, you see, the thing about it is, and so I'm really, he's like really clever people often have these kind of ticks.
Yeah. But I'm thinking Vincent Brown right now.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But he was talking about, I remember he was talking about everything we are in the Irish language. Every word we have is related. Many of them are related to the widest parts of our world. And he was talking about even the word bohar, bow. Bo comes from Bovinda in India.
Yeah.
The boyne. The bow is the cow in boyne. Bo har is the width of the road, to let the cow through. Bo is a god.
Yeah.
In India. This is the same
and
Bo.
There was a goddess Bowen as well. The Irish goddess Bowen.
But so it isn't just us, it's the world.
Yes.
We are the world, to coin
Yeah.
Quincy Jones and Lionel Richie. And we should embrace not ourselves, embrace the world, because we are in that world. We were part of the ancient formula of languages, it came across the Indo-European. And he got out a handkerchief once, a glass of white wine and a handkerchief and a pen, and he drew the Irish language for me. He drew it just in loads of arrows. He just drew it coming across the place.
Wow.
And you're just going, this is a guy who knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And there should be more people talking about it in those instances.
Yeah.
Not just going, this is a mathematical table that we have to learn, or
Mochaneelic. Absolutely.
But that it's not, and it's not just Irish. We're Indian.
Yeah.
We're India.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The biggest country in the world, the biggest population in the world, the biggest democracy in the world. Half Indian. It's anyway, wonderful stuff.
Fascinating.
But that was and yeah. Finally, just one thing that I wanted to pick your brain about, and was the Seoige and Seoige thing. Things have moved.
Well, it wasn't called Seoige and Seoige, it was Seoige.
What?
It was just called Seoige.
Oh, sorry, I'm under the complete misapprehension. It wasn't called Seoige and Seoige.
So, Joe Shea presented it first with Gra. So it was Seoige and O'Shea.
I used to take the piss out of Seoige and O'Shea on Gift Grub.
Yeah.
She'd be there, like we had a great... Laura Byrne used to do Grania.
Yeah, she was brilliant.
And Laura used to go, coming up on the show, I'll be speaking to Barack Obama, Bill Clinton and F. Murray Abraham and Daniel Day-Lewis. And I'll be talking about which colour tie is the best one to wear to work. He'd get all the shit gigs and she'd be there doing all the glamour stuff. And every time she spoke, you'd hear this sound in the background. Bom, chicka wah wah. So it wasn't called Seoige and Seoige.
So it was Seoige and O'Shea when he did it. And then I came on board, they just dropped the O'Shea bit.
Right. Maybe it was some sort of sexual fantasy that just put the two Seoiges there, that males needed to hear that there was two Seoiges. And that's my male brain going, no, it was Seoige and Seoige. Why? Because what's better than one Seoige? Two Seoiges. Anyway, my point to you was, we've come a long way since then. The television world of 2004, 2005. And you've written about it yourself. You've spoken about it yourself. The idea that let's remind ourselves that you two girls were seen as very much a physical commodity. A kind of bye. But in that world of girls got to look good for the telly, and the boys can just rock up in a shirt and now a pair of jeans, and the girls are very much judged about what they look like. And that's changed a bit now, I think.
Yeah.
No, come on, it has changed a lot.
Yeah, still has a way to go though. But it is good. Like, even the likes of, say, VIP magazine. So you have Mary Kennedy and Mary McAleese on the cover. And that's, like, for me, that's a moment. Because...
Why?
Because majority of the time it's younger women on that magazine.
Because it's VIP magazine.
Well, yeah, and I think it's great when you see that, because I think we need to, again, go back to what we used to do, which was honouring the experience and wisdom of that age brings.
Yeah.
And that's what, and that's where modern society has its skew ways. We honour youth. But actually, when you go back to the maiden, mother and crone idea, that actually, as the older we get, the more we have to offer. The more we have to give, the more we have experience we have to share. And I think it's wonderful that the bit more of that is happening. But let's be honest, you still see a lot older fellas on telly than you see women.
Yeah, you do.
You still have the balance of the older guy with the younger woman.
You do.
It's more acceptable.
You do. In a funny sort of way, I know America is a very, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, I know America is a very conflicted country in so many ways. But one of the things I've noticed about their broadcasting, and it must be from their history of broadcasting, is that there is a huge place in American broadcasting for much older broadcasters, male and female. And there always has been. And I find it very refreshing. And that's why you see a lot of the broadcasters and you're going, I'm a big one. I don't know about you. I'm a mad one for Googling ages.
Really?
Jesus, I'm insane. I look at somebody on TV and I go, I just take a look at them and I kind of tilt my head and I kind of get a feel of them. And then I go, now what fucking age are they?
Why is that?
Because you're more often than not utterly surprised.
Older or younger?
They're way older.
Oh, okay.
And they're firing on all cylinders. And you're like, 81? I was looking at this American presidential historian the other day. Doris Kearns Goodwin is her name. And she was an intern or journalist in the LBJ office, Lyndon Johnson's presidency. And she wrote his book after he retired and then subsequently died. And she's written books on American presidents for years. And she was like, in an interview the other day about her latest tome. She's 82 and she's just all over. And, it's just wonderful. And she's always on the TV talking about politics and everything. And it's just brilliant to see that. And I think that should be more in Irish and English TV culture as well, and radio culture. I mean, look at Kenny, PK.
Yeah.
76.
Amazing.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And still ploughing away. All systems go. He's amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, he sounds utterly just,
perfect.
And so there's more of that needed because that's a person who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
And there could be more 70, 75, 80-year-old women doing stuff as well. And women last longer than men, so they should be.
I'd love to see it because I suppose I'm 45 and I'd love to still be working in an industry that I enjoy working in. But I'm also aware that there seems to be that little bit of a ticking clock in terms of your appeal. So I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah, it will. It will. Time will tell. Okay, I've loved this conversation, Sheila.
I have too.
Yeah, thanks. Do you want to ask me about anything? Do a Tommy on me?
Yeah, I loved you on Tommy. It was amazing. Yeah. What was that like for you?
He wasn't happy with the audience being there.
Okay.
Like you do about an hour and 10 minutes. And I think halfway through it, he went, shh, I heard a crisp bag.
Okay.
Shut up.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he did a Christy.
Are you messing?
No. So he did a Christy Moore on it. I heard some jingling at the back of the room. Shut your holes. So he did a bit of that. And I was like, oh.
Okay.
And then the other thing was, as a comedian, I tend to, if I hear a little ripple.
You're vibing off that.
I'm vibing off it. And then I sort of tilt my body slightly. And I could feel him kind of going, don't do that.
Oh.
Tilt over here. Because he wanted
Look into my eyes.
He was going for the deep and meaningful conversation, and I was going for, hey, I'm vibing here. I got a bit of a riff here going on. Yeah. That kind of thing that just comedians do.
Yeah.
And anyway, I've seen since that they've eliminated the audience.
Yeah. Interesting.
No more audiences. Now, I'm not saying I finished them off. And they say, Jesus, after your man, we're finished with audiences. Rubbish. But and then I didn't really know I was going to go down that detour about my dad and about parents, and that's the thing that caught people's interest. But I was very obviously I was very emotional about it, but I didn't have to show any emotion, because just because you feel emotional doesn't mean you have to show. So I decided to channel my emotion into speaking as well as I could about it, and to saying to people that I wasn't afraid and I have no shame anymore. Because it's something that can really, really give you shame. Because the lack of, for people who are listening out there who didn't know this, I haven't spoken to my father in 16 years. And it's not because we fell out or didn't talk. It's because the relationship doesn't really exist. And people find it very hard to understand that. And I found it very hard to understand it. But I do now.
Yeah.
And look, it doesn't mean you have to go blaming everybody, and I've gone past that. But just because a relationship never happened or failed doesn't mean you're to blame or he's to blame. And it also highlighted the addition that we were born with our parents. We didn't choose them. Bob Dylan famously wrote, I was born here and I'll die here against my will. I didn't decide to be here. You came. When I arrived in, I was pretty much not. I was not. And there you were. So with your disapproving face. I didn't choose you. Now I chose my friends, and I chose my wife. And she chose me. They're your friends because you chose them. But your parents aren't necessarily your friends. You're bonded by love, and maybe, but sometimes that bond is severed slightly or fractured. And anyway, so I didn't feel that I deserved to have shame or to be blamed for it, or that it was my fault. And I did go through a period going, because I'm a real doer, and I go, I can fix this. Surely of all people, me, I can fix it. And I couldn't. I couldn't. I wasn't even near fixing it. And that can be very frustrating to a person who thinks they can do stuff. And I couldn't do anything about it. And so
accepting that was a big
so this is the thing you get about when you get older, the idea that like learning a little bit of acceptance, and the idea that, you know, some things are the way they are,
and you have to let it go,
and that there isn't a real Hollywood binary answer for this, and there isn't necessarily the scene on the deathbed where the eyes come over and go, "I love you, Dad."
But are you open to that happening or not happening?
Yeah, I'm open to anything happening.
Okay.
I'm open to anything happening, because I think to be shut off in your life, but something happening doesn't mean it changes the fundaments of what the world was.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, a lack of love has existed. A vacuum, a kind of a vacuum. You know, you can go into the history of all that and why that was. But listen, it is what it is, and there's a kind of a vacuum, and there are some relationships that end up in a vacuum, and you can't really explain it. You know, we love to explain relationships by, I was raped when I was 4. Well, that's a good fucking explanation. But not all of us were raped when we were 4. You know what I mean? It just was a vacuum of a relationship. And that in some ways that's as bad, because you can't understand why you're not being loved.
It's a nothingness.
Nothingness. You can't understand why you're not being loved.
Yeah.
And especially when you think so much of yourself. Why wouldn't anybody love somebody as downright bloody awfully brilliant as me? Which is worse. Because I'm so talented. Look what I've done.
How could he not?
How could you not love this? And that's even worse. You know, so, and of course the more you fight that, the worse it gets. So I felt pretty proud actually after that. And the reason I felt a bit proud was because I kind of felt loads of people like you've had, but things like the miscarriage and the cancer, and possibly even now you were talking about the Palestinian situation and how you found some lovely people in that space and bonded with them.
Yeah.
I had some really peculiar and funny little things where you would be doing your thing up on stage, trying to be the powerful person, and then afterwards a very important and very, very sort of well-dressed kind of CEO type would approach you and squeeze your hand, and then you'd go, "What's he here?" And then the whisper would come in, and it was nothing to do with your show tonight, nothing to do with your comedy. It was like, "The thing you said to Tommy has touched me and will stay with me forever, because it's exactly the same situation with my sister, not with his father, with his sister, estranged for years.
Estrangement
can't figure it out.
It's far more common than I think people
and weird
know.
and difficult to work through, because we love excuses,
and it's so unspoken. So I think, again, by you speaking about your own personal situation, you gave permission to others to be okay with their situation too.
Yeah,
it's
and
powerful.
That idea of a person, which you said, just being on a public platform, unashamed to express themselves and saying, "I'm okay with that."
That's what I want to see. I mean, I respect you massively, and I was watching it that night, just going, "Wow, that's really, really powerful stuff from Mario."
Yeah, but I'm not an all sales commodity guy on this sort of stuff, so I only have that. I don't have loads of them. Like, there's no chapter 2 where I go, "This week I want to tell you about my septicemia. A lot of people out there have approached me about this." Okay, fuck it, I'm lying. I made it up. Anyway, thanks.
So great.
Love you.
Love you too.
Thanks.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Really loved it.
And my thanks to Sile Seoige for coming in and being on the Mario Rosenstock podcast. Her podcast, Ready to Be Real, is always a good listen as well, and I encourage you to listen to that. Get in touch with me, as I said, mariorosenstock@gmail.com. Directly, I get back to nearly everybody that gets in touch with me, and I read them all as well. Don't forget, my tickets for the 3 Arena, Gift Grub Live 25, are on sale now on Ticketmaster. Go hunting, get in there. We'd love to see you there, especially the people who are part of my podcast. And that means you. You are part of my podcast. Thanks. See you same time, same place next week.